This lesson, we're going to start to get into the content of our next unit. Here I have a question and some examples. How many outcomes are possible? In other words, we're going to roll a six-sided die. How many possibilities could occur? Well, this die has six sides, meaning I could roll any one of six numbers. 6. Fairly simple. Flip a coin one time. What are the possible outcomes? Well, we have heads, we have tails. Again, fairly straightforward. 2 possibilities. Here's where it gets a little trickier. Roll 2 six-sided dice. A couple of ways to think about this. We can go through and list every possibility. In other words, I roll a 1 and a 1, I roll a 1 and a 2, roll a 1 and a 3, 1 and a 4, and so on, until I have counted and listed every single possibility. That's not very efficient. So I use a technique that was taught to me by one of my college professors. I use what are called slots. I'm rolling 2 dice, which means I have 2 slots in this case. The first slot represents the first dice. Second slot represents die number 2. And then what I put in each blank are the number of possibilities. On the first die, I have 6 numbers. On the second die, I have 6 numbers. Any one of these numbers can pair with any one of these numbers. So the implied operation is multiplication. And there are 36 possibilities. And if you think that through, it does make some sense. Let's say I roll a 1 on this die. There are 6 possible numbers I could pair it with here. 1, 1, 1, 2, 1, 3, and so on. Let's say I roll a 2 on this die. Again, there are 6 possible numbers. 2, 1, 2, 2, 2, 3, 2, 4, and so on. I roll a 3. 3, 1, 3, 2, 3, 3, 3, 4, and so on. Every number here has 6 possibilities here. And since there are 6 numbers here that can pair with 6 different numbers there, we essentially have 6 times 6. That is how a slot problem or a slot system works. And that's going to be a much more efficient way than writing out every single possibility. Here's another example. Flip a coin 3 times. I'll slot this out. Since I'm flipping 3 times, I have 3 slots. I have 2 possibilities for the first, heads or tails. Then I have 2 possibilities again, heads or tails. Heads or tails the third time. We imply that the operation is multiplication, so we end up with 2 times 2 times 2. There are 8 possibilities. And since that's a fairly small one, we'll look at that one a little more in depth shortly. So this is a little taste of what's to come in this unit. One of the main focuses in this unit is counting. We've essentially counted the number of ways to do something. Count the number of ways to roll a number on a 6-sided die. Simple. Count the number of ways to flip a coin. 2. 36 different ways to roll 2 dice that are 6 sides each. Flip a coin 3 times. Count the number of unique possibilities. 8. This is one of the main focuses of our unit, because if we can count things, we can then calculate how likely certain things can happen. Sample space. Sample space is basically a list or a group of every single possible outcome. And we'll look at a couple of sample spaces so you can get an idea of what they look like. Every single outcome, and I should add, of an event. Something is happening. What are all the possible things that could happen? Now, some sample spaces are very small. Flip a coin. My sample space is heads, tails. Roll a six-sided die. My sample space are the numbers 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Sample spaces can get very large. Roll 2 six-sided dice. The sample space is every single pair of numbers possible. 1, 1, 1, 2, 1, 3, 1, 4, 1, 5, 1, 6, 2, 1, 2, 2, 2, 3, 2, 4, and so on. All 36 pairs of numbers. That's a big sample space. It does not pay for us to write that out every single time. That's where the slots come in handy, so we can at least picture the sample space without having to write out every single object, every single pair. I don't always need to write out a sample space. I can start to just sort of sketch it out here. Okay, now I see a pattern. Oh, there's 6 here. There's going to be 6 here. Okay, I start to get an idea, and now I can see that I'll do this 6 times. Each one has 6 values, 36 numbers total. Let me do another sample space. Flip, coin, 3 times. And then my possibilities. Here's the sample space. I could get heads every single time. I could get heads twice, like so, or I could get heads twice this way. I could get heads, whoops, that's a mistake. That's a double mistake. I could get heads twice this way. Those are the 3 ways I can get heads twice. I could get tails twice. 1 way, 2 ways, 3 ways. And then I could get tails all 3 times. I've come up with 8 possibilities to flip a coin 3 times. And if we go back here, that matches with what our slots said. 2 possibilities, 2 possibilities, 2 possibilities, make a total of 8. Well, here are those 8 different possibilities. That is our sample space. That is a sample space. What are all the individual results? And sometimes it's small enough we can list them. Other times it's large and it doesn't pay to list every single one, but we can see a pattern and determine that there are a number of possibilities. In this case, it was 36. If this said 3 6-sided dice, well, then we'd have 3 numbers. We'd have 6, 6, and then 6 again for 216 possibilities. No way we'd want to write out every single possibility, but we could at least get an idea of what some of those results would look like. And this is going to help us count things quickly. And then if we need to at least see what some of those results look like, we can have an idea then how to picture that.